first person to have a meaningful two-way communication with a prospective patient customer is a 90% chance of getting them in. They call a day later, 2 days later, leave a voicemail and say, oh, it's a bad lead. No. You got to respond back within 3 minutes. You have to constantly follow up with them over and over again. Thanks for AI is we've done a lot of washing, a lot of testing, we don't just do A/B testing, we do ABCFG testing to see which one gets the right response. The same thing, in any industry, you got to do it. You got to compete. They have more bucks, they have more power to them, but you can't just close up your ship. You got to fight fire with fire. But working smart now, can't do this by hand anymore. You got to be ahead of the curve.
Dean Steinman, welcome to E-Coffee with Experts. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Austin. Good to be here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, very, very happy and excited to talk to a serial entrepreneur and someone who has a breadth of experience in marketing, but also deep knowledge in a specific industry. Can you tell us a little bit about Ortho Marketing and maybe where that came from?
Yeah, so I'm the founder, president, chief everything of Ortho Marketing. We are a digital marketing company, and we work with dental practices all over the world. We work with practices in the States. We have in Canada. We've got Australia. We've got Europe. And what we do is we put butts in the seats. So we do anything possible to help a practice stand out in a crowded market and to get them more new patients.
Yeah. And just making it super simple like that, butts in the seats. Like you don't need to express like everything that you're doing behind the scenes, with raising the brand awareness and all of that. Right. Technical stuff. It's just butts in the seats at the end of the day. So where did that come from and why did you select Ortho Marketing?
Also, if you asked me about 15 years ago what I've been doing today, 38,914th thing on my list would have been working with dentists. But it just happened. A little quick backstory is I was running a marketing company, and a real dear friend of mine is an orthodontist. I looked at his website and I said, man, your website's terrible. Let me fix it. He's like, go ahead. I redid his website, did his marketing. The end of the year, I became his biggest source of new patients. Luckily for me, at that time, the guy got a job with Invisalign, and he would go around, and do presentations and conferences and explain to orthodontic practices why you need to bring Invisalign in your practice. It was nice enough during his, his talks to say the reason I'm successful is the company I hired to put our name up there. And fast forward 15 years later, 400 or so practices we've worked with over the years, and and I love it. I like to say we're in the smile business. My job is to make my clients smile, and their job is to make their patients and customers smile. And if you can make somebody smile every day, it's a good day.
It's a good day. Yeah, I love that, man. So it didn't seem like it was an intentional decision. It was just like, man, we had a quick win. Like we had an early win, and we just decided to, do that.
Exactly.
I'm curious how the orthodontist industry has changed over the last 15 years. I'm sure specifically as it pertains to marketing, I'm sure it's gotten more competitive.
Yeah, there's so much competition now. So I actually, so what I do is I kind of changed my business model about 5 years ago. For the first 10 years, I worked with and I marketed orthodontists. Now I market orthodontics. So what I do is I work with dental practices as well, because they're a decent dentist. They can do a basic Invisalign case. I always say if there's a complex one, refer it out. But there's so much competition now, especially where you are, in Phoenix. I know last time I was there, every single strip center had another dentist or orthodontist practice. Every single one. It's like in New York City, it's like a bodega or a pizza place. It's everywhere. And the competition is so fierce. So how do you stand out in a crowded market? So that's what's changed a lot. Practices, dentists, orthodontists have been around for 15, 20 years. They know that they see their numbers down. They know that they've got more competition than ever before, and new ones are popping up. And now, obviously, the big trend is corporate. A lot of funds are investing and buying up dental practices, and private equities are doing that, called DSOs, dental service organizations, and they're buying up and practice after practice after practice. And now they've got some of them that have like Delta Dental and others. They've got thousands of practices that they own, so how do you stand out and compete with the big boys? The same thing, in any industry. Like, how does a painter compete with CertaPro? You gotta do it. You gotta compete. They have more bucks. They have more power to them, but you can't just close up your ship. You gotta fight fire with fire. So that's what we do is we roll up our sleeves, get to know them, and figure out how to make them different. How do you stand out in the crowded market? First thing I do with any business I work with.
Yeah. And someone with deep expertise, you got a decade and a half of experience. By the way, we have a team that can edit everything out. So no worries if there's any phone calls or anything like that. I'll just make a note.
Cool.
But I'm sure, like, with a decade and a half of experience in one industry, you bring business knowledge to the conversation, not just around marketing and how to get the word out there,
Right.
but also in, how to run operations, how to make it more efficient, how to increase margins of the business, how to, if you can't compete on a budget with some of these bigger dental organizations, you can compete with personal touch and speed to lead. Tell me a little bit about like what business competitive advantage you bring to your clients outside of marketing.
You just hit it right there. Speed to lead. Right there. That
Mm,
is the key for every single business period. For dental practice, for a lawyer, for a plumber, for a restaurant. The first person to have a meaningful two-way communication with a prospective patient customer, there's a 90% chance of getting them in, right?
mm,
But people are coming at you left and right. So you have to respond immediately. So I saw the writing on the wall, and about 6, 8 months ago, saw that practices are not responding. Clients, people may fill out a form on the website, and they call them. They call a day later, 2 days later, leave a voicemail and say, "Oh, it's a bad lead." No, no, no. You got to
mm.
You got to respond back within 3 minutes. You have to constantly follow up with them over and over again. So
Yeah.
I decided that I'm not going to let my clients fail. So I built a call center. So now I will not take on a new practice or new client unless we can handle the new business for you. Phone rings,
Mm,
we're going to answer it. We're going to pre-qualify and we're going to book them on your calendar. If somebody fills out a form on your website, we're going to use our AI platform and automation, text them, call them, email them, DM them immediately. If they don't
mm.
respond, do the same thing the next day. If they don't respond, same thing the next day. Same thing the next day for 8 days. If we don't do it, then we'll do a drip campaign and do it more and more and more. And over the last 4 months, I've got a pretty good case study, which is pretty remarkable, that the average 40% of appointments that we're booking takes 5 or more touch points to get them in.
Hmm.
5 or more.
Mhm.
And nobody follows up 5 times. Nobody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you afford to lose 40% of your new business by not having a program in place,
Mm.
and their staff is not capable or have the bandwidth to answer every phone call, to fill out it and to respond to every form. And then if you leave a message, when was the last time you picked up your phone? When a number comes through? Unless it's
For me, yeah.
your wife's sister, relative, a friend. I don't pick it up ever. But to say, "Oh, yeah, we called, left a message." No, you gotta constantly do it. So what we do now is we found that we have to continually reach out to people. We do it 8 times in 8 days. If I said 42% of the appointments that we're booking have to touch 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the other 60%, those are being booked in, like, within the first 3 minutes or
Right, but then you've got literally another 40% are booked on the first call, and then
Oh, okay.
and then you got 20% are booked on touch 2, 3, and 4.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's either the first one to the game or the one who persists the
Correct.
longest. Yeah. And how do you systematize that? You said obviously you have a call center to be
Mhm,
able to touch the prospect within 3 minutes of them filling out a form online.
mhm, right.
I don't know of many, let's say, young entrepreneurs or founders who are running a marketing agency that can, outsource a call center right away.
Right.
How do you build some sort of a system around that? And what sort of tech are you using in
Yeah,
order to
so
do that?
the first thing is to find the right people that you can afford to pay, all right? Because it's
Mhm.
not cheap to have somebody be answering the call, answer a call, respond to calls, follow up with them right away. So you have to have
Yeah.
the right people, you have to train them the right way, you have to be HIPAA compliant. And then, we built our home proprietary, system, which
Mm.
then utilizes, I said AI and automation to follow up. So somebody fills out a form, it goes into the pipeline, and then, you know, we tell our practice, all we have to do is give us 2 minutes a day and let us know what happened,
Yeah.
because we don't know if somebody showed up to the appointment, so
Mm.
the last thing we want to do is send a text message or email and say, "Hey, still looking for, get straight teeth," and the person showed up. So
Mm.
you got to help us help you. But besides that, we do it all. And it's been a game changer. It
Yeah.
really has, when practices are seeing great results, because they never realized that, "Oh, well, that's a bad lead. We called twice."
Yeah.
No, you gotta keep doing it, keep on keeping on.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, a lot of you and I both host a podcast, and a lot of what we're talking about is AI. And I think a lot of the conversations that I'm seeing that talk about AI are talking about how the experience is for the business owner, but we're leaving out how the experience is for the consumer. And I think
Mhm.
that immediate touch point of like my head's still in it, I just, filled out a form, that probably feels good to a consumer that, wow, like somebody's talking to me right away
right
and
away.
somebody cares enough to follow up with me. I'm curious, let me ask you this. How do you strategically align the messaging with following up with someone 8 times in 8 days so that it doesn't get redundant or annoying or bothersome?
Well, again, thanks for AI is we've done a lot of washing, a lot of testing, a lot of we don't just do A/B testing, we do ABCFG testing to see
Dang.
which one gets the right response. And if you and through technology, you could do that now, and you could try 4, 5, 6, 7 different responses, and
Mm,
whichever is getting the hook, that's the one that you double down on.
yeah. Okay. Got it. So you've tried like testing on message 1,
Right.
testing on message 2,
Right.
all the way
In
down.
different ways, so, our text message is different than the email, which is different
Sure.
than the DM, which is different than the voicemail.
Mm. Okay. And what have you found in terms of like messaging? Like, is there a tone that you take? Does the tone change throughout the sequence?
It does. It all basically is built upon the practice's personality. And how do you want us
Okay.
to answer your phone? How do you want us to respond? How do you want us to do this? If they're corporate or if they're practice, in Arizona and they're very community oriented, very laid back, so they want to, hey y'all, they'll drop that versus good
Sure.
afternoon, sir. So it all depends
Uh-huh.
upon how they want it presented. So tell us how you want your name, your personality be said, and then we do it accordingly.
So, dealing with, like you said, 400 clients throughout the world, you have processes that are your own IP, of ortho marketing. But for each client, you have to customize it in some sort of way. You have to have their brand tone, their brand voice. Do you have a process that you send your clients through in order to extract that brand voice from them so you can create the messaging?
100%. We always have an onboarding. Tell us,
Yeah.
here's our our call center. Listen to who do you want? Which ones do you want? They'll listen to different recordings. Then
Okay.
from there, we interview them and tell us how you want us to respond back. And tell us how you want us to do it and how you want us to be presented by you. Because we're an adjunct to them. So if they're not happy with the way we're positioning it, they're going, well, that's not how we do things around here. Well, I'm from New York. We do things a little differently than somebody in Phoenix or somebody in Tulsa.
Sure.
So we have to, adapt ourselves accordingly. And then that's important is to adapt and change. Also, we have
Hmm.
to make sure to do it. And also we let them know what's working too. So if
Mm,
there's, so if they want to do things one way and we see it's working another, well, Doc, let us try it a little bit. Let's dip our toes in the water a little to see, and you'll see a difference. And they're like, all
mm.
right, we'll do it because that's why they hired us.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that only comes from deep expertise in the industry. You get to bring these business insights and not just, general marketing practices. But as you're deep in an industry, but you can be broad in the services that you offer. What's a majority of your business coming from? Is it SEO? Is it PPC? Is it, email marketing?
Yep, 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 yep.
Uh-huh.
It used to be forever. It was just SEO and referrals. Now since I've got more competition than ever before as well, like everybody does. Well, I need to stand out. So we're running our own AI programs. We have our own AI agents that we've got videos running. And somebody fills it out, they fill out a form, and boom, as soon as they fill it out, our AI will call the practice right away. Thank you for reaching out. You know, let us. How can we answer the questions for you?
Mm,
So we're doing our own retargeting, we're doing our own email marketing, we're doing whatever is need to do because we need to keep our name front and center, you know, and doing this for a long time. So people know us, and a lot of people, as you know, if they work with a marketing company or work with companies, they've gotten burned. So how do you stand out differently? I'm proud to say that we're different. We roll up our sleeves, get to know practice. I don't use the same marketing for, as I mentioned before, for every practice is different. Every message is different. So
mm.
I can't use somebody in New York and answer the same way as somebody in Tulsa. Just can't.
Right.
You know?
Right. I'm curious when you have an agent that's a voice agent that reaches out, within that first magic window, 90 seconds, 180 seconds, whatever it is. What sort of tests have you seen in response to, an agentic voice, like a robot voice, which can
Right.
sound very real, don't get me wrong, and, an actual person, maybe they have an accent, I'm curious what you
Mhm.
found.
I could tell the difference, but 99% of people can't. So that's what
Really?
good AI is now.
No way.
Is you can and I before I even go live with one of my outbound AI agents, listen and check and change this, change that, and and then I try to play around with it, and I fill out a form, and I try to trick them, and see how good they are, and we taught them well. Those AIs are smart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and people appreciate that because I could show them this is what we do. We could do it for you. All right. So look how quickly,
Yeah.
if it works for you, why would you not want to do it, for your practice?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm curious. It almost seems it's more about the attention to detail and the time frame than it is about having an actual human. I think that's the big concern when you talk with a lot of business owners is they're like, I don't want to lose that human touch.
Right.
This practice has my name on it.
Right.
I don't want my customers to leave because they think I'm trying to cheat them in some way.
Right. So I do a hybrid. I do both. So if somebody calls a practice, I have a live person answer,
Sure.
not an AI. So we do a hybrid. But then if somebody
Mm,
fills out a form or a text, or chats, then the AI comes in, and then from there, I would like to speak to our office. Click here, and it'll come in, and then an inbound call will come into our call center, and we pre-qualify them,
mm.
get them on the calendar for the.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question. On that first outbound call, is that more of a qualification call or is it more kind of like you said, just to answer any questions, clear up any misconceptions?
Depends, yes and yes. If somebody's calling up a dental office,
Hmm.
they they want to schedule. They want to know what you
Sure.
do, and is this covered by insurance, or how much is it, or blah blah blah. So
Mm,
most people, the reason they're calling is to
to book. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So you probably don't have to qualify them necessarily, as opposed to, if you have a business coach or something and there's a form to fill out and you need to qualify them by revenue and by employee number and,
Right.
industry,
Well,
all of that.
make sure they can afford it. If you had,
Yeah.
Invisalign braces, or you put it on your kids or whatever it is, it's not cheap. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure the first thing is, can people afford it?
Yeah.
Because like, can they spend, $5,000? That's what's good. This is not something that is cheap.
Hmm.
I put braces on both my kids. I had Invisalign.
Yeah.
I know how much it costs, and does anybody who's done it before. So that's the first thing, is to make sure that your prospect can afford you. Is a good match, because if they
Hmm.
can afford the X dollars down or X monthly,
Hmm.
don't wait. That chair time is too valuable.
Mm. And do you talk about pricing on the phone when somebody calls in? I mean, obviously it's
No.
a consultative
Well,
basis.
as starting at price, just
Okay.
can you afford X dollars down, or X, or what can you afford put down, and how much can you afford a month? If I
Uh-huh.
could pay $50 a month, well, it's probably not going to work. Yeah. But from there, well, how much is it? Well, I can't tell you. Just like, if you're a plumber, I don't know what it is until I get there. If you're fix
Yeah.
my car, I don't know what it is until I lift the hood. Well, can't dentist cannot tell you how much orthodontics is, unless till they open your mouth and see how much work is needed.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, open it up. Whoa.
No, exactly. Get on out. No, no.
Smokes. So we've been talking about kind of the middle bottom of the funnel, right? Where the qualification happens and then the transaction happens once they come in for the appointment. Tell me a little bit about what more you're doing at top of funnel to increase visibility, particularly in ChatGPT and LLMs and AI overviews.
Yeah, so we've, have expanded for up, anybody that's done any type of marketing or advertising up until the last few years. You run ads on Google and Meta, and that's it. And so we integrated some very hyper local advertising platforms lately, which have
Mm,
been real game changers. Things like geo targeting,
mm-hmm,
retargeting, local banner ads for branding purposes.
mm,
But if you're in a busy shopping center, well, why is your message not hitting every single person's phone while they're there, just branding your name, that let them know that you exist? You
yeah.
can't, retargeting, it's most people don't know what it is, but they've seen it. If you go to Amazon, you look at a pair of shoes, those shoes follow you, and eventually they'll break you down. You go to Old Navy and you look at a pair of jeans, those jeans follow you until you buy them. Same thing.
Yeah.
So, we do that for our practices, and somebody goes to their site, because 92% of people don't convert when they go to a website. They don't take the call to action. So
Mm,
now, is there any better type of marketing you could do than reach back to somebody that's already been on your website?
mm,
So that's something that we're doing. So from the top funnel is just, positioning. And then I always try to, I sit down with the first time I sit down with the client, I said, tell me what's different about your practice. What makes you different? What's your differentiator? And
mm.
everybody's like, well, we give great service, and we get great results. No, that's a necessity. That's not a differentiator. If you don't give great
Yeah.
service and get great results, what are you doing? So that's
Yeah.
not a differentiator. So what makes you different? You have most experience. Do you have the most reviews? Have you been in the neighborhood the longest? Are you, platinum, Invisalign provider, top
Mm,
1%? What makes you different?
mm-hmm.
And also get your patients to talk about you. You could crow to the
Hmm.
cows come home how great you are. If you're tell your patients to tell their friends how great you are, whole different ballgame.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that's we put in UGC and we put in, social proof into all of our marketing programs.
Yeah, UGC, I just hosted a podcast recently where the gentleman was running, they do a lot of Reddit organic marketing
Mhm.
for their clients. And he's like, it is not scalable. If anyone's figured out a way to scale Reddit organic marketing, like, please tell me how to do that
Right,
because,
I
like,
know.
right now we haven't figured it out. It's very manpower intensive.
Mhm.
But he's like, you know what? That's what shows up in ChatGPT.
Right.
Same thing with
Mhm.
reviews. I'm curious, you were talking about, what is the unique differentiator for each of your clients? And that's probably part of the onboarding process. Have you ever had an instance where you're talking with someone, as a founder or the owner, and they say, "Well, I think it's this," and then you maybe do some customer surveys, and they come back and they say, "Well, you know what? I really like the paint color and the front desk lady," and that's like, yeah, I guess it's something different than what the owner says based on what the clients say that they appreciate about that. Do you ever get friction between those, and then how do you address that?
Yeah, of course. But the fact is, if you come to me because you need help, listen to what we have to say. So, how would you feel, doc, if you have a patient sits in your chair and they say, "Well, doc, are you working on tooth number 14 first or number 31 first? Well, I think you should, do this before you do this. You're the expert.
Mm. Hmm.
Mary, please let me get your teeth straighter. Doc, let me do my work. I appreciate insight, but it's not my first rodeo. We know what we're doing.
Mm.
You focus on what you do best and let us do it there. Otherwise, it's not a good match for me. When people come to me, more than half the time I say, sorry, it's not a good match because I want to be able to get people results. And
Mm.
if, they can't let us do what we do, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally feel that. And you're like, what a great position to be in for you as someone who can turn down business. I think that's especially for younger agencies or smaller agencies, like it's a real challenge to get clients in. Switching a little bit from top of funnel marketing for your clients, going to ortho marketing, how like where are you finding your clients these days? Is it still referrals? Are you doing marketing, advertising? Like
Yeah, as mentioned
how's
before,
that
we do
happening for
everything.
you?
We're doing a lot of video advertising, marketing.
Okay.
Very active on my podcast. We do a lot of cold email marketing now.
Huh.
We're really good at our SEO. I mean, you Google orthodontic marketing, you're going to find ortho marketing at the top.
Yeah.
And we get a lot, and lately, probably today's Tuesday, I think twice this week so far, we got somebody who said they found us on ChatGPT. Last week, we
Nice.
got 3 people, so we're getting a lot of our, inquiries from AEO, from, answer optimization. So the days of just posting a blog on a website is over. You gotta be
Yeah.
a lot more hands-on, and you're not just you're not optimizing a website anymore just for Google. We're optimizing it for so many different programs as well now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. We talk about the, search everywhere optimization, and that even includes back to the Reddit marketing, the making sure you're getting reviews. Like, how do you have a campaign that can reach out to your current clients and ask them for some input, video content, like you said. Do you have a full like content marketing team for ortho marketing, or how does that work?
Yeah, probably half the practices we work with, we actually go out to their office, and
Uh-huh.
in a day, we'll get 6 months of content in 1 day.
Nice.
Because the content's it's mostly short form stuff. So we'll be out there, just interview the doctor, interview pet staff, interview patients, get activity in the office. We'll walk out of there with, 60, 80 pieces of content that we'll edit and done for you. And we'll be able to then push it out. So it's literally in 1 day on site, we'll have 6 months of real content versus same stock picture you see over and over and over and over and over again that everybody uses, and that doesn't
Yeah.
move the needle anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking with speaking of video content, I was talking with a gentleman at one of the it was actually Ahrefs Evolve conference in San Diego just last week. And he was saying, along with the search everywhere optimization, nobody's talking about social SEO, like social optimization. And I was like, well, tell me a little bit more about that. And he said, these algorithms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the algorithm can see what's on the screen to the point where if you have ortho marketing on your shirt, and somebody searches for any sort of those keywords on TikTok, your video might come up
Right.
because you actually have it on your shirt. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly. So I'm curious, how are you thinking about, scripting for your clients, scripting for yourself, if you're doing short form video content, because
Right?
algorithms are super smart, man. They know all that stuff.
I don't even think about it anymore now. We're using AI to do it for us. We
Yeah.
have to go there and do it, but then we'll wash it through it, review this content, come
Hmm.
back with a strategy for us, come up with an implementation, tag it for us. Then we obviously for that we have to push it out and do it. But
Hmm.
working smart now, we can't do this by hand anymore.
Yeah.
But you got to be ahead of the curve, and I'm a smart guy, but I'm not smarter than AI, and I'm not
Yeah.
smarter than the technology there. So I let them tell me what the answer is versus me trying to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious how that has an effect on like keyword research and, how do you keep creating new content for ortho marketing, when you've kind of already gotten the main
Right.
keywords.
If I got clients with me for 15 years, how many different ways can I talk about a blog on Invisalign,
Yeah,
or braces?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
now things have changed so much, especially with with the everywhere and answer that we put FAQs and change it around. These are the most, frequently asked questions. And because that's what somebody on ChatGPT will do is they'll ask a question and then
Yeah.
the answer will come up. It's not just find me an orthodontist in Phoenix. My child is 12 and I'm looking to find out what's the best way to get their teeth straighter. So you ask a question and a problem,
Yeah.
and then on the websites now we have to put the content, and then we also have to now take that same content and where do you put it? Not, you don't just put it in a blog, put it on certain pillar pages. You put it on the GBP, which really helps a
Hmm.
lot. When you got to and take that also. One piece of content can be reused 30 different times.
Yeah.
One blog can be turned into a video, can be turned into a visual, can be turned into a Google post, can be turned into a YouTube video. There's so many different ways to work smart from just
Hmm.
one piece of content.
Yeah. To repurpose that bad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. As we wrap up here, Dean, like looking into 2026 and beyond, I guess what either for ortho marketing internally or for your clients, like what's either a software tool or a process or like a new channel that you're bullish on, and like 12 months in the future you'll be excited that you leaned into it.
I'm loving this new AI programs like Sora. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just started to get addicted to it, and I just make my kids and my family laugh like crazy because I just try to turn myself into all these different characters, and
Yeah.
that's the fun part about it is you can't tell the difference now with some of these AI programs. It's all video. I remember I read something. It's all on
Yeah.
video, so and that's going to continually evolve. TikTok is great. I just started playing guitar. And I'm on TikTok all day just taking lessons, I never took it in person,
Yeah.
and I love it, so it's all about, learning and absorbing, you know, and you gotta figure out where to be. The average person gets 5,000 messages a day on this thing.
Yeah.
5,000. How do you stand
Mhm.
out? So that's where you gotta be everywhere. You can't just do
Yeah.
SEO and expect it to work. You can't just run Google ads or Facebook ads, expect it to work. You gotta have a whole rounded program, and video is a big, big, big part of it.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, congratulations on becoming the fastest man in the world on foot, beating Usain Bolt.
You
Holy
saw that.
smokes. If you guys want to see that, the audience, go to Dean's Instagram and double
I
check
love
and
it.
verify my claim. Dean Steinman, where can we find you online? Is it orthomarketing.com? Dean Steinman on LinkedIn? Where else
Yep,
you want us to go?
that's it. Ortho Marketing, we're everywhere. Just, we're on TikTok, Insta, website. Follow me on LinkedIn, and if you wanna just, laugh a bit or cry with me with the Jets, then follow me personally on Insta, as I wear it on my sleeve. The first thing we spoke about is the Jets, so,
That's right.
they're killing me this year. They killed me last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before.
Uh-huh.
Please, once in
Yeah.
this lifetime, Um,
Someday.
exactly.
Someday.
Yeah.
maybe that'll be your next Sora
Yeah,
videos, like the
please,
Jets, like
exactly. I already got a few of those. I'll post one of those. I already made
I
it.
bet. Awesome, Dean. Thanks for being here. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
you too. All right, thanks. Cheers.